Thank you very much, dear Emilia, dear city leaders, dear our friend Pak Tau, colleagues. A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. As Emilia's mentioned, since 25th of March, UCLG, Metropolis, and UN Habitat host this live learning session now twice a week. Earlier is once a week. Now I think now every week, even twice a week. Yes, we listen to cities because we care. We care about cities. That's why we do it twice a week. And we listen to cities, experts, and also academicians and the business sectors on the issues of housing, mobility, information technology, migration, culture, and more. And today on the local finance is one of the most important factor in this COVID-19 and also the post-COVID-19. So obviously the check comes, let us give a moment of thought for the city treasurers in the world now trying to pay the bills. Debt are outstanding, tax revenues collapse, incomes of people and business have disappeared, and welfare payments and subsidies escalate. So on the 17th of April 2020, our United Nations Secretary General has launched Debt and COVID-19, a global response to solidarity. So countries, cities need funds to tackle the immediate emergency and deal with the immediate social economic impact. Then they need funds to recover better, with more resilient against future shock. Leaving no one behind and no place behind after the outbreak is a commitment we must make now and we must plan for now. Today, I announced the UN Habitat COVID-19 response plan online, our new way of doing things now. By now, I want to share more than 1,400 cities in the world are affected by COVID-19. 95% of the cases are in urban areas. My concern, UN Habitat concern, is for the 1 billion people living in overcrowded slums. We know that 1 in 3 people in the world lack adequate access to safe water and sanitation. UN Habitat can help cities and communities in 64 countries now this year. But for this, we need 72 million US dollar. These funds are to support government and local authorities to better plan interventions and target assistance. Communities in informal settlement needs community-driven solution. Local government departments need data and map. City leaders need policy support. For us in Kenya, UN Habitat is supporting the government's effort to collect data and improve access to water and sanitation facilities in informal settlement and to prevent COVID-19 spreading through urban transport system. We are working with civil society and community organizations to ensure integrated, coordinated responses. In Sri Lanka, UN Habitat is supporting provincial, council, and local authorities to establish a service provision database, facilitating online discussion with local authorities on their emergency response and training them online reporting services they provide. In Iraq, UN Habitat is reorienting its existing activities to carry out COVID-19 responses, focusing on water, very basic water, sanitation and hygiene, shelter improvements for the most vulnerable, job creation and public messaging. In Latin America, we prepare the intervention in Guatemala, Honduras and El Salvador through integrated blended short-term investment in informal settlement. Many of these interventions needs to be budgeted and financed by member states and local government, and as much at larger scale, more often than not, without external support. The budgets for 2020 needs to be redrawn and financial planning for the next 2 years should start. So the financial needs are very immense, I can imagine, at the local level too. At historic times, as we are in now, we need to have a clear vision. Cities and local government have no central banks. But let us be mindful that central banks exist on the basis of trust. Trust in the state as a guarantor and multilateral system in support. Successful cities and local government has something alike: trust in public services, trust that they support and guarantee a quality of life for all citizens. All cities and local government should ensure that they support all citizens fairly, including those in the informal sector. Participation and community-supported solution enhance trust in the support of local government. Data are essential for trust. Local government institutions must be able to show credible data, allowing state institutions and private sector to plan ahead and target intelligently and to provide local finance. Cities and local government should also be upfront about capacity problem and support financial innovation and financial management training from top to bottom. This is also the time to set up a new dialogue, new vision to systemic failures, and to seek the trust and creditworthiness for innovation development beyond the outbreak. This is the time to plan for more internal and public accountability mechanism for budgeting and spending, and to seek new compacts to increase municipal reviews, revenues, and also with new incentive. Trust, municipal governance in municipal finance capacity is also essential to support more effective subnational borrowing and to see through regulations in the financial sector that enhance the appetite of subnational borrowing. A final piece in the jigsaw puzzle of trust in public service is commitment. Local government should commit to a more just society, cities without slum and without overcrowding, and realization of the SDG. This commitment should be the basis for all government's plan. COVID-19 should not lay the ground for failure and another crisis. Planting the seed for recovery is in itself an act of financial management. Borrowing today for the harvest to come. Action of cities today are the down payments for a better future. Bankers are masters in leveraging short-term needs with long-term expectation. They are masters in trust and solidarity. In the same vein, cities and local governments should seek new compact with citizens, compact of trust and solidarity, and will be the basis for recovery and resilient future. I am grateful, Amelia, to be among mayors, deputy mayors, financial leaders today, and your experience and insight a solution to this crucial to support our community and people most in needs. Without you, we cannot plan to get us beyond the outbreak. So we need financial means to do our work. And that's all I would like to say thank you very much. And I wish I can join you, but I have to take my leave now. Please take some time to look at our website. And we are here together with all of you. Let us collaborate, unite, and solidarity. Thank you very much. Over to you, Emilia. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Executive Director, and I can testify that you have been with us throughout the sessions every week. But today, UN Habitat is announcing its recovery plan on COVID, and she is very taken by press. So thank you very much, Executive Director, for these words. I think Maimuna has really covered many of the aspects that we want to see discussed in this session today. Allow me only to just highlight a couple of things. We all know that public service provision is underfunded. And this is a reality that we have been dealing with before the COVID pandemic, and that has been extremely difficult to bring to the top of the agenda, both nationally and internationally. We all know also that the pretext to have this underfunding is also because sometimes it is argued that local governments do not have the capacities to actually manage properly what would be adequate funding. Another aspect that we have been dealing with and has been part of our advocacy of many of us around the table is that Although we live in an economy that is built around formal requirements, so credit worthiness, for instance, is something that is defined far away in offices that are not often in the global south. We live in a reality at local and regional level that is highly informal, and this informality and these realities that force local and regional governments to offer service provision or not to a very big part of the population are not to be found high on the political agendas either. Then we have the issue as well of, we all know that our public servants are often underpaid, and this is a reality for the global north and for the global south. Now, this is not new, but I think it's taking a very high relevance within the framework of this pandemic, because we have come to realize that safety and even health are very dependent on many other public service provision that local governments do need to offer us. And that to the greatest extent, the orderly manner in which we are going through this global confinement, if we look at it from a global perspective, is due to the fact that local and regional governments are literally going out of their way, losing a lot of income and doing everything possible to support the most vulnerable, so that our civilization keeps going, basically. So where we have water infrastructure, water is still running, we have waste recollection. In those spaces where we didn't have water and where that was a problem, alternative emergency measures are being looked at. So my hope, and this is not a naive hope, my hope is that this situation is going to help us make the case differently in the future for the aftermath. And that the discussions with the partners that today we have around the table, the financial institutions, and also the private sector, will change in the future. And that we all gather around this notion that without a strong delivery of basic service provision, with the protections of the common in mind, with the right competencies and prepared local and regional governments, we will not be able to meet the Sustainable Development Agenda, which in our perspective, from our perspective, is a very good framework to continue this work. So today we are going to be looking at these different aspects. What are we going to need for the reconstruction? What are we doing while the crisis is ongoing? And what does it mean for the sustainability of our system? But again, let us keep in mind that I think our collective effort needs to be to change the narrative also for the aftermath, and to identify those things that are really working. So that's the part where we learn from each other. I will stop here with my general comments, and I will now give the floor to someone that has been thinking a lot about these things, and now from the perspective of national government. Mr. Mpo Parkstau, the Deputy Minister of the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. But above all, for me, my former president, the former president of United Cities and local governments. You cannot imagine how happy I am that you are joining us, because we worked together on some of these issues. We pushed from the perspective of local governments for greater access of local governments to international finance, which is a very important issue. And today, I hope you can share with us, President, your vision and the efforts that you are making in South Africa to preserve the system and to support local and regional governments. So, President, the floor is yours. Welcome to this live learning experience. Welcome back home.
Well, thank you very much. It is good to be home, Emilia. And thank you to UCLT, and I think we should all appreciate the effort that has been made to enable us to have this learning experience and to share experiences and views throughout the world about how we're responding to current challenges, but also what collective action would be required from the entire subnational government fraternity, working together with our national governments and the global community to respond to what is a global crisis at this stage. So I thought I should do two things this afternoon because we don't have much time. The first is to share briefly some of our experiences over the past 2 months as South Africa in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the implications for local government. And secondly, to pick up on the points that I think Maimuna raised, but also would be important on this platform, which is about what should we do collectively as the community of nations and indeed the community of local government practitioners to respond to the challenges. Now, our cities, like all cities throughout the world, are at the cold face of having to respond to the pandemic as we currently experience it. In the South African context, many of our municipalities are responsible for primary healthcare facilities. Whilst this is not a primary constitutional mandate of local government, many municipalities such as Johannesburg, Tshwane and Ekurhuleni in Gauteng, where I've recently received a report, are responsible for almost 300 clinics in the province of Gauteng. So that's a significant infrastructure that is required or that municipalities are putting at the back of fighting the pandemic. At a second level, our municipalities are responsible for some of the most basic services that are required, providing water, sanitation, electricity, and other municipal services that are critical to ensure that people are able to, in the first instance, self-isolate in instances where they can, but also to join in the global effort for hygienic efforts in fighting the global pandemic. That has necessitated that the South African government thinks proactively about how we respond to the challenges that confront not just the nation, but indeed our municipalities in the midst of a crisis. And some of the most immediate decisions that were made in the country was one, to enable local governments to spend outside their budgeting framework on areas that are priority to respond to the pandemic, so that they could be able to then get post-expenditure ratification of their budgets. And I think that has been an important step to free the hands of local authorities to be able to do the work that they are supposed to do. At the second level, we've allowed for a reprioritization and repurposing of national grants so that these national grants that are not own revenue of local government, we can relax the conditions that are attached to those grants, including what they are dedicated for, so that local government has the ability to then invest in the infrastructure that's needed. And as you would know, South Africa being a developing country, many of our communities still don't have access to adequate water, sanitation, electricity. So repurposing the grants to mitigate these problems has been important, including allowing interim solutions such as water tankering and other temporary mechanisms of accessing infrastructure. But I think significant in the past week, and on Tuesday, as the president announced a recovery plan for the country, taking into account that we've had to deal with the lockdown of the country, we're still under lockdown in the country, taking into account that the country has been downgraded to sub-investment grade, the president announced a stimulus package that would allow all of government and all of society through tax instruments, financing instruments, and a whole range of other instruments to respond to the pandemic and to the economic crisis that we're facing. A significant proportion of this, almost 1 billion euro, is dedicated to local government. This is new money that was not in the system of local government that's going into local government to ensure that our municipalities are able to respond to the pandemic. And amongst the issues that we're considering and applying our minds to how we should then take this forward in local government is to mitigate the cash flow problems. because municipalities are unable to collect revenue under current circumstances, to deal with municipalities in distress, to enable municipalities to respond to the social, health, and economic challenges as a result of the conditions that we're facing. And we anticipate that by tomorrow we should be able to make an announcement of the conditions and systems that will enable us to respond to, or enable us to direct these resources to local government. And we as a Department of Cooperative Governance, working together with our National Treasurer, working together to ensure that we can develop systems for ease of expenditure of these resources in local government. A second part of the work that we're doing and that has been ongoing for the past 2 weeks, I should say, is issues that have been at the top of mind but have not found expression. So we've been thinking about these issues: how to enhance capital funding and access for local government, how do we introduce pooled financing as a system that enables municipalities to pool their resources to invest in capital infrastructure, how do we enable and facilitate that municipalities are able to access private sector partnerships to enable them to execute their responsibilities, but also how to enable them to access other resources in the overall system, including new tax systems for local government that we should consider so that we can restructure the revenue base for local government. So these are some of the initiatives that are currently underway, and we expect to present some direct proposals to all of government in response to this. My last point, Emilia, is that I think that this is the time where collectively as the global community, we need to think about, one, how do we support local governments to create their own revenue systems within a national policy framework, and that's important work that collectively we should do. Enable and enhance local government tax and revenue systems is important. Secondly, it's about access to global financing mechanisms within a globally agreed framework. And so that is important, and it's work that we've been doing collectively. But I think it's becoming more important and urgent for the world to respond to a mechanism that enables local government to access resources. And lastly, I think that we should collectively advocate for a recovery fund of some sort. This recovery fund would include local government so that all of government is able to respond to the post-COVID crisis, or even in the midst of COVID, our ability to respond to the challenges that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deputy Minister, and thank you very much, President. I bring you the greetings of our current President, who couldn't be with us today in this very session, but is aware that you are here. And I think you will be proud of United Cities and local government because we are going to be announcing our call to something like you have described later in the session. And also we are trying to address some of the needs of our membership through the fund that you thought about and co-created, that David Jackson with UNCDF will be talking to later on. So thank you very much for these important messages, and I think we will need your supports of governments like yours to bring this message further in the global tables. So thank you very much for that. We've got a very busy session today with many cities and local governments that are going to be intervening, and many partners. I'm going to give the floor now to my team, to Serge Alao, who is going to run one segment which is traditional in our live learning experiences, which is an online consultation with you all, those participants. We are now 244 participants from around the world, and we want to hear your priorities and thoughts. Since you are not able to all take the floor, we invite you to participate online on a very brief survey. Serge, the floor is yours.